Okay, let's dive straight in. What really kicked off the renewed conflicts involving Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj around 1673 and 1674? We've got these historical biographies here, and it seems like a shift in power in Bijapur really set things in motion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great example of how fragile peace can be. You had this treaty with Bijapur, the annual tribute was flowing.
Right.
But then Ali Adil Shah II dies. And this new regent, Khawaz Khan, steps in for the young prince.
And he wasn't interested in the treaty.
Apparently not. Sources paint him as, arrogant and dismissive of the existing agreement. And that instability, that perceived disregard, that was the opening Shivaji needed. It just shows how leadership changes can totally shift the ground rules.
Exactly. And it wasn't like Shivaji was caught off guard by this, was he?
Oh, not at all. Our sources are pretty clear that his network, those Brahmin secretaries he had placed, kept him really well informed about the internal politics in Bijapur.
He knew about the divisions, the nobles unhappy with Khawaz Khan.
Precisely. He knew Bijapur was weakened internally. And like any good strategist, he saw that as a major opportunity. You exploit your opponent's weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
So sensing that weakness, Shivaji gathers this big Maratha army at Vishalgad. But Bijapur wasn't just sitting back. They reached out to the Mughals for help.
They did. And their commander, Abdul Karim Bilal Khan, started preparing for a fight. So things moved pretty quickly from political tension to, actual conflict.
Right. And the first big move was Panhala Fort.
Yes, a really strategic spot. Shivaji sends about 15,000 troops. Abdul Karim meets them with a large force and initially actually pushes the Marathas back.
Oh, okay.
But this is where you really see Shivaji's leadership style. He doesn't back down. He reinforces immediately, counterattacks, and just completely routs Abdul Karim's forces at Takota.
Wow. A quick turnaround then.
Very quick, decisive, shows his adaptability and the strength of his military machine.
So after that victory, he turns his attention to Hubli, which wasn't just about land, was it? It sounds like resources were a big factor.
A huge factor. Hubli was a major trading center, international merchants, lots of wealth concentrated there.
So a prime target for plunder.
Exactly.
Okay.
The booty taken from Hubli was reportedly massive, maybe more than from any other town. And that kind of wealth, it directly fuels the war effort, doesn't it? Pays the troops, buys supplies.
Makes sense. But the English factory there got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, they reported significant losses, something like 8,000 pagodas, which, led to some interesting back and forth with Mr. Angier, the governor of Bombay.
How did Shivaji handle that?
Really pragmatically, actually. He didn't deny everything. His commander's inventories, he said, showed about 200 pagodas taken from the English.
Okay, a much smaller figure.
Right. He denied this widespread looting, they claimed, but offered to pay back the 200 pagodas, plus settle some old debts from Rajapur. He even suggested they re-establish the Rajapur factory.
Which they did eventually.
They did. It shows Shivaji trying to keep a working relationship, even amidst conflict. He clearly saw the English as potentially useful.
Which leads us to his diplomatic efforts with them, right? Trying to get naval support.
Yes, that was a big strategic goal for him. He needed help against the Mughal and the Abyssinian fleets controlling the coast. He even proposed a joint attack on Janjira.
Offering to cover all their past losses as an incentive?
Exactly, a bold move. But Angier, he had to be cautious.
Because of Surat.
Because of Surat, yeah. The East India Company's trade there was huge, and it was under Mughal control. Angier couldn't risk provoking the Mughals or their Abyssinian allies. It would have been disastrous for business.
So he turned Shivaji down.
He did. And interestingly, he also turned down requests from the Abyssinians to use Bombay as a base against Shivaji. He stuck to this policy of strict neutrality.
Which probably earned him some grudging respect in the long run.
I think so. Both sides eventually saw Bombay as, neutral ground, which was probably Angier's aim all along.
So while managing this English relationship, Shivaji is pushing down the western coast. Karwar, Ankola.
And not just direct attacks. He was also stirring up trouble from within, encouraging the local Deshmukhs, the chieftains, to rebel against their Bijapur commanders.
Undermining Bijapur's control piece by piece.
Exactly. Destabilizing them internally. It's just as effective as winning battles sometimes. Diverts their resources, weakens their grip.
And amazingly, while all this is going on with Bijapur, he's also trying to keep things peaceful with the Mughals, sending overtures to Khan Jahan.
It sounds contradictory maybe, but strategically it makes a lot of sense. He couldn't fight everyone at once.
Right.
By keeping the Mughals appeased, or at least neutral, he could focus his main effort on Bijapur, which was the more immediate crumbling threat.
And Khan Jahan seemed receptive, supported Shivaji's requests to the emperor.
It seems so. Possibly because Khan Jahan's own past campaigns against Shivaji hadn't gone too well, and he recognized Shivaji's strength. Maybe it was easier to, recommend peace than risk another fight.
And that explains Khan Jahan's mysterious silence, as some sources put it, while Shivaji was hammering Bijapur.
It could well be. A sort of tacit understanding, perhaps, keep the Mughals out of it. It resulted in this period of relative peace between them.
Meanwhile, Bijapur is dealing with Shivaji in internal revolts, like Mian Saheb down in Karwar.
Yeah, another example of the internal chaos. Mian Saheb, rebels, tries to get guns from the English factory in Karwar, then pillages it when they refuse.
Just adding to Bijapur's problems.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And when Bijapur sends an 8,000-strong army to deal with Mian Saheb, what does Shivaji do?
Sees another opportunity.
Exactly. He moves fast. His Mavalis pull off a surprise capture of Fort Parali.
Impressive.
Then Satara, the surprise attack, fails there, but he settles in for a siege, 4 or 5 months, and eventually takes it too, plus a whole string of other forts, Chantan, Wandan, Pandavagad.
In towns like Wai, Kolhapur, he was really expanding his control southward.
Rapidly,
Yeah.
extending his territory right down towards Hukuri Raybag, and gathering significant booty along the way, sending it back to Ragad.
So around this time, we hear reports Shivaji's raising a huge army, maybe 20,000 men. And this worries everyone.
Right. The Mughals are thinking, is he going to hit Surat again? Bijapur is worried he'll link up with the Karwar rebel. He's keeping them guessing.
Classic Shivaji, strategic ambiguity.
Precisely. Make them uncertain, make them stretch their resources thin, anticipating different moves.
And the reality was even bigger. A 25,000 strong army.
That's what deployed, descended the Ghats, plundered Bankapur, and then suddenly appeared before Fonda and laid siege to it.
Catching them off guard again, what happened to the Bijapur army sent to Karwar?
They apparently saw Shivaji's massive force heading towards Fonda and just retreated in dismay. Didn't want to face that.
Okay, so Bijapur finally has to react seriously. Kawas Khan sends Abdul Karim again, this time towards Panhala, where Shivaji seems to have renewed the siege.
Yes, a large army dispatched. And Shivaji orders his commander, Prataprau Guzar, to deal with Abdul Karim.
And this is where things get complicated and ultimately tragic with Prataprau.
Very much so. Prataprau's initial plan was quite bold. Lift the siege on Panhala by attacking Bijapur itself.
Did it work?
Initially, yes. He'd advanced right up to the gates of Bijapur, caused a huge panic. Abdul Karim was actually recalled from Panhala to defend the capital.
Clever move by Prataprau.
It was. But then, as Abdul Karim is retreating, Prataprau intercepts him near Umrani. He blockades him, there are skirmishes, but then Abdul Karim asks for an armistice.
And Prataprau grants it.
He does, and this is where the trouble starts. Shivaji was furious.
Why? What was wrong with an armistice?
The terms weren't clear, maybe? Or perhaps Shivaji felt Prataprau had let a trapped enemy off the hook too easily? The sources say Shivaji severely censured him, called his conduct into question.
Ouch. How did Prataprau take that?
Badly. He was deeply mortified. And in response, he takes his troops off on this, what the sources call an unnecessary excursion to the Pain God in Berar. Sort of proving his courage, perhaps, but it took him away from the main action.
Which was bad timing, with Shivaji tied up at the Fonda siege.
Exactly. A strategic blunder born out of, maybe, hurt pride. His absence was keenly felt.
And then comes the Battle of Jessri. Abdul Karim is on the move again towards Panhala.
Right. And Shivaji, bogged down at Fonda and missing Prataprau's main force, is in a tough spot. He sends a really harsh letter to Prataprau.
What did it say?
Essentially blamed him for Abdul Karim's resurgence. Demanded he not show his face again until he had destroyed the Bijapur army. Strong stuff.
Wow. That must have hit Prataprau hard.
It seems it did. Because what happens next is, Prataprau, completely abandoning his usual calculated tactics, just charges headlong with a small contingent into Abdul Karim's much larger army.
An impulsive attack.
Incredibly brave, but yes, impulsive, against overwhelming odds.
And the outcome?
Disaster. The Marathas are defeated, and Prataprau himself is killed in the fighting. A terrible loss.
Oh man. But the story doesn't end there, does it?
No. There's another dramatic twist. Just as the Bijapur army is celebrating and dispersing after their victory, another Maratha commander, Hansaji Moaid, arrives unexpectedly with his division.
He didn't know about the battle.
Apparently not. Or maybe he just arrived then. He sees the scattered Bijapur forces near Jessary, realizes what's happened, and launches a surprise attack.
Turning the tables completely.
Utterly catches them completely off guard. What was a Maratha defeat turns into a massive Maratha victory. Abdul Karim's army suffers heavy losses, and he barely escapes himself.
Incredible. Talk about snatching victory from the jaws of defeat.
Absolutely. And Shivaji was immensely pleased, obviously. He recognized Hansaji Mohite's brilliance and bravery in that moment.
That's when Hansaji gets promoted.
Yes, appointed Sarnobat, the chief commander, and given the title Hambiro, a huge honor reflecting the impact of that victory.
And this battle, Jessary, it also brought forward some other names we'll hear again.
It did. Two young warriors who distinguished themselves under Hansaji that day were Sataji Gorape and Danaji Jadhav. Shivaji took notice, promoted them. They became huge figures later on.
But despite the victory, Shivaji felt the loss of Prataprau keenly, didn't he?
Deeply. Sources say he mourned him greatly and even acknowledged that his own harsh words might have contributed to Prataprau's rash final decision.
And he looked after Prataprau's family.
Yes, provided for them, and later even married Prataprau's daughter to his own son, Rajaram. It shows a human side, loyalty and responsibility beyond just the battlefield.
Meanwhile, back at Fonda, the siege is still dragging on.
Yes, it proved a tough nut to crack, even after getting more ammunition and cannons, apparently from the French, at Surat this time.
Interesting detail.
Isn't it? But still, no breakthrough. So eventually, Shivaji decides to lift the siege.
Just gives up on it.
Not quite. He makes a treaty with the Bijapuri governor, the subheader there. The deal was the governor wouldn't let any Bijapur forces pass through the Ghats near Fonda.
Ah, so controlling the access route.
Exactly. As long as that condition was met, Shivaji agreed not to attack the fort or its territory again. He was pragmatic, cut his losses on the siege, but still achieved a key strategic aim restricting enemy movement.
And after that?
He focused on consolidating his gains along the coast, basically conquering the whole stretch from Rajapur down to Bardesh, setting up military administration, and then returned to Raigad. His cavalry actually had to camp at Chiplun because of lack of water and fodder elsewhere.
So a busy period on land. What about at sea? There were ongoing clashes with the Abyssinians and Mughals.
Yes. While Shivaji was busy with Fonda, their combined fleets were attacking his territories in the Konkan.
Were they successful?
There were numerous clashes. Shivaji's navy fought back, but the sources suggest limited success for him in this period. Several of his warships were captured.
And they were using Bombay Harbor again.
They were. The Mohammedan fleets repeatedly sailed into Bombay waters, using it as a base to raid Salsette, which was nearby, ignoring Governor Angier's protests.
Causing trouble right under the English noses.
Big trouble. Violence, looting, massacres, taking people as slaves. Angier warned them Shivaji might retaliate against Bombay itself, but they didn't listen.
Did Shivaji retaliate?
Well, eventually, about 3,000 Maratha troops arrived from Raigad. They engaged the Abyssinians who had landed, defeated them decisively, and the Abyssinian fleet finally cleared out of Bombay Harbor.
So another instance of Shivaji projecting power effectively, even while dealing with sieges and battles elsewhere.
It really shows his ability to manage multiple fronts simultaneously.
Okay, so looking back at this whole period, 1673-74, it's just incredibly dynamic, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have Shivaji restarting the war with Bijapur, cleverly exploiting their instability.
Then balancing his military aims with careful diplomacy, especially with the English, trying to get that naval support, but respecting their neutrality when needed.
Right, and simultaneously managing the Mughal relationship, keeping Khan Jahan passive through diplomacy while he focused on Bijapur.
Plus all the internal drama, the revolts within Bijapur and within Shivaji's own camp, the whole incredibly dramatic and sad story of Prataprau Guzar.
Yeah, that really stands out. It highlights the ambition, the strategic thinking, the sheer resourcefulness, but also the very real human cost involved in all this.
Is there one detail from this period that particularly strikes you as revealing?
For me, it's maybe that small detail about Hubli. Shivaji personally checking the inventories from his commanders about what was taken from the English factory.
And offering the 200 pagodas back.
Yeah. In the middle of a major campaign, that level of almost bureaucratic detail regarding a foreign power's minor losses, it's unexpected. It shows a real pragmatism, doesn't it? A focus on the bigger picture, even down to small compensations, maybe to keep future options open.
It really does. It wasn't just about brute force. There was calculation, diplomacy, understanding the wider context. So for you, the listener, maybe think about this. How did Shivaji manage it all? Exploiting enemy weakness, yes, but also navigating these complex relationships, the English, the Mughals, all while fighting. What can that multi-layered approach, blending military action with diplomacy and strategic patience, tell us today?
It's a great question. His success wasn't just about winning battles. It was about managing this incredibly complex environment, understanding that interplay between force, diplomacy, intelligence, and internal politics. There's definitely a lot there to unpack about his long-term success and his legacy in that volatile 17th century Deccan world.
I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.